there, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be starting very shortly. We're just going to give people a little bit more time to join, and we'll be back in just a moment. See you soon. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Amir Rand, physical therapist and regional director here at Spear Physical and Occupational Therapy. I'd like to welcome back those of you who've attended one of our other webinars, as well as welcome those who are joining us for the first time. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy days to learn with us. For those of you who don't know who we are, Spear is a private outpatient practice that has been around for over 20 years, with currently 21 locations located all over the New York City area. We've successfully continued to offer in-person care throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as launched Spear Live for those who are looking to stay and receive care using our telehealth platform from the comfort of your home. In our clinics, we strategically go above and beyond with the CDC guidelines to ensure the safety and well-being of everyone. You can find more detailed info on those safety measures by visiting our website at spearcenter.com. We are here for you in whichever way makes you feel more comfortable. If you're looking for individualized care, either in the clinic or through telehealth, please reach out to us at your convenience and we'll get you set up for an appointment right away. We're excited to be with you today to discuss golf athletes and the injuries associated with them. As part of our session today, we will be talking through and demonstrating some of those exercises, and we welcome you to follow along and practice with us as you feel comfortable. Please note that if you're experiencing any pain while performing any of these and/or you feel unsteady or unsafe to do them on your own, definitely stop and reach out to us directly so that we can support you. As you can see, we're coming to you live from our own homes and clinics, and although we do not anticipate any technical issues today, please be patient with us. Should any of these things arise, we'll navigate working through this technology with you together. A little bit of housekeeping. Throughout the webinar, we want to hear from you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to let us know your thoughts in the Q&A feature. To find where that is, please take a moment to hover your mouse over the bottom of your screen. You'll see the Q&A option pop up. That is where you'll be putting the questions, and we'll do our best to address as many of them as we can during the webinar. It is best to put questions in the Q&A, and if you put questions in the chat feature, we will likely be unable to get to them during the webinar. And for those of you who are watching through YouTube Live, we are monitoring the comments section there as well, so please feel free to type your questions in. Lastly, there will be times where multiple panelists are on the screen. So for the best viewing experience, please select Gallery View at the top right corner of your Zoom screen, so you'll be able to see multiple panelists at a time. All right, let's talk more about the goals for the day and what we'll be covering. First, we'll be reviewing the biomechanics of the golf swing. We'll then discuss some common injuries sustained by golfers and explain and demonstrate exercise interventions to avoid golf-related injuries. And then most importantly, we'll be answering your questions live towards the tail end of today's webinar. Okay, before we get started, I'd like to introduce you our team of panelists. We're going to welcome everyone onto the screen now. Our presenters today are Dan Romeo and Leanna Gearhart. Deanna and Dan are both physical therapists at our 30 Broad Street location in Fidei. Hey, Dan, Leanna, how's it going?
Hey, Amir.
How's it going?
Good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. We also have Jeff Smith, who's also a physical therapist and our clinical director at our 30 Broad Street office. He'll be helping us with answering your questions in the Q&A today. What's up, Jeff?
What's going on? Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Just a reminder to everyone, it's best to be in gallery view so that you can see everyone at the same time. If you've done that, you should be able to see all four of us right now. All right, let's get started. Jeff and I are going to get out of the way here and say goodbye for now. And Leanna and Dan, we'll let you take it away with some info on the biomechanics of the golf swing.
Awesome.
See you guys later.
Awesome, guys. Yeah, so to start off today, we kind of just want to get you guys, know you guys a little bit better. So we're going to pull up a brief poll here. We just want to get a sense of, hey, how long have you been playing golf? Are you new to the game? Have you been playing all your life? I know myself, I've been playing quite some time, just about, I would say, majority of my life. Leanna, how long have you been playing?
Only a couple years now, but I'm transitioning from a softball swing to a golf swing, but so far so good.
Awesome. Yeah. So, our goal for today is to offer something for everybody. Whether you've just picking up a club this spring or you've been playing for decades now, we hope to offer you something to take away from today. So we'll give you a couple of minutes here just to answer this brief prompt here, see what category you fall into. We'll see what we got today in the audience. Awesome. Yeah, sweet. So we have, it looks like a majority of you have quite a bit of experience, which is great. Hopefully we can offer you something today, but we also have some newcomers as well. So good mix. And hopefully today, the goal is just to take something away. So to start, I want to talk about a little bit more about the biomechanics of the golf swing. So I know that Leanna first kind of wants to address something first.
Yeah. Thanks, Dan. So basically what we're going to do today, we're going to go through more of the medical approach to the golf swing. So we're going to talk about specifically the biomechanics that go into the swing and, the physical attributes of each part and what your body needs to do to get through that swing. And if certain things could be limited, how that could affect both your golf swing and could lead to some injury. So we want to look through the whole swing and see how each part kind of moves and how we can address some of those limitations. The other thing I wanted to go over that, there is no perfect golf swing. There is a swing that's most ideal for each person. And what we want to do is just make your body move in the most ideal way so you can get through the golf swing most effectively and most safely. So I'm going to pass it over to Dan. He's going to take you through each part of the golf swing here.
Awesome. Yeah. So, with any golf swing, there's typically four parts that take part. So to start, there's the address, then the backswing, the downswing, through the impact with the ball, and then follow through. All right. For newcomers, this may seem kind of new. For those who have experience, this seems like common sense. However, it's important to know what is required from the body during each parts of the swing. All right. So the address, that's when you're walking up to, let's say, the tee box, right? You're bending forward over the ball and you're preparing your body to produce power to impact the ball and hit a nice swing, all right? Hit a nice golf ball. Backswing is when you're taking the club into the backswing, all right? In preparation for energy production to go into the downswing and then through impact and then going up through follow through, all right? I'll start with the address, all right? So with the address, you're trying to establish a nice stable foundation, all right? A nice stable foundation is gonna allow you the opportunity to produce power through the swing. All right. So you're basically setting yourself up for success. All right. Your feet are about hips width apart. You're slightly bent at the trunk. All right. And you're nice and stable, secure, and ready to perform. All right. Now the backswing, you're taking your club, you're bringing it up backwards. Right. And with that, there's certain demands that are placed on the body. All right. You need to have good rotation through your shoulders to be able to come up overhead. You need to also have good rotation through your trunk, all right, to be able to get into that position, all right? Then once you're up in that backswing, that's when the body starts to almost act like a slingshot, all right? You have a lot of energy production coming up into the backswing, and then it acts like a slingshot as that energy transfers through the hips, through the torso, and then all the way out through your arms and ultimately through the club down through the downswing to impact with the ball and then going up and through follow through. All right. What's important to stress is that during each parts of the swing, the body has different demands. All right. We need to have good mobility from certain joints, and we need to have good stability from other joints. All right. So as you can see on this next slide that I'm going to pull up today, there's a pattern to the human body. So if you can go ahead and pull up the next slide. There we go. Awesome. So there's an alternating pattern in the human body of both mobile and stable joints. All right. And I want to first kind of, hey, what does mobile mean? What does stable mean? So we'll put it simple. So we'll consider a joint of the body to be mobile if it's able to move in many different planes of motion. All right. So an example of a mobile joint is our shoulders. All right. Our shoulder is able to move in tons of different planes of motion. All right. And I'll compare that to a more stable joint, such as our knee, which really is only able to bend, in flexion extension, right? In a very simple pattern. All right. The human body is set up in a pattern where there's an alternation between stable and mobile segments. All right. And that's what allows us to perform. All right. Now, if you take a look at the little infographic here, it kind of breaks down that pattern a little bit more specifically, right? So I'll start at the foot, right? The foot is more stable, ankles more mobile, knees more stable, et cetera, et cetera. What's important to know though, is that it's very common for this pattern to be disrupted. All right. If you have some tightness around a joint that should be more mobile, all right, then it's going to possibly present itself through some form of compensation, or some type of dysfunction. All right. And that's typically what leads to injury, particularly in a very specific sport like golf that requires these joints, these stable and mobile joints, to perform how they're meant to perform. All right. So if a stable joint is becoming more mobile, all right. So for example, common with our lower back is meant to be quite a stable structure. All right. However, if there's restriction somewhere else, we may start to compensate with our lower back, and our lower back is going to try to become more mobile, which we don't want. Right. So in a nutshell, if this pattern is broken, that's typically what leads to golf injuries. All right. And what we hope to address today is to, just give you a better understanding of this and have you gain a better understanding of what your body is capable of, and maybe have you identify some how this pattern may be impacted for you personally. All right. And then we hope to give you a few things to address these things, and you really set yourself up for success long-term with golf. The great thing about golf is it's a sport that really could last a lifetime if this pattern is optimized. All right. It's when this pattern is disrupted that golf injuries occur, and then we're taken off the course, and then we're sidelined for a longer period of time than we want to be. All right. So to next up, we want to get a little bit more into an overview of some injuries that typically result from a disruption of this alternating pattern of stable and mobile segments. I know I'm going to bring Leanna back in, and she's kind of going to take it away with that a little bit more on injuries. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. So kind of how he alluded to before, if this pattern isn't working as well as it should, it could lead to some injury. So what I'm going to do is kind of just work from the top up, tell you about how specific injuries can occur during that golf swing if things aren't functioning quite properly. So let's start up at the shoulder. Getting into that backswing, a lot of that overhead shoulder motion. You could have pain up in this motion because some of the muscles or the specific joint is getting irritated up here, which could be, impeding your ability to get through that full backswing. Moving down to the elbow, if you ever heard of, golfer's elbow or tennis elbow, very common injuries to the muscles around that, the forearm and the elbow here. And then, lot of low back injury as well. So, that low back is supposed to be one of those stable segments that how Dan mentioned. Very common to have mid back and hip tightness. Those are two segments that are supposed to be more mobile, but if those start to tighten up, the lumbar spine is going to have to do, the low back is going to have to do a lot more of that work. And, ton of rotation in that golf swing that should come from that mid back and the hip. So if you're not getting it at those places, the low back's going to have to compensate and do a lot of that rotation. The low back generally doesn't love to rotate. It likes to do more of kind of the bending forward and extending back. So if you're forcing it to do a lot of rotation, could lead to some low back pain there. Very similarly, moving down to the hips. If you got tight hips and you're constantly trying to rotate over them, hitting golf balls, doing golf swings, constantly just turning at those hips, can lead to some hip injury there as well. Very similar down at the knee, just a ton of rotation. The knee was supposed to be one of those ones that just does, the bending and the extending. But if it has to do a little bit more rotation because the hip's not rotating well, going to lead to some knee injuries as well. And then, getting down to the foot and ankle. A lot of it comes from, just walking the course. Sometimes you roll your ankle, trying to get out of a bunker, just walking in general can lead to some muscle injury there. So those are kind of common ones that we see kind of from the top down, just from different parts of the golf swing. So what I want to do next is pull up a poll, see what you guys think. What do you guys think is the most commonly injured joint when playing golf?
Let's see what we have.
Have you had any injuries when playing golf?
I've been fortunate. Luckily, nothing too crazy. You touched on getting out of a bunker and rolling the ankle. Definitely has happened to me a couple of times, but fortunately, no. I'm more or less. I've been lucky. You?
Yeah, I myself have some tight hips, so I'm gonna definitely be doing some of these exercises we'll be showing you guys. But yeah, no sprained ankles. I guess I don't spend enough time in the bunker.
So we'll give you guys a couple more moments here to answer this poll. We just want to get a sense of what you think is the most injured joint.
Yeah. And the other thing we want to touch on too, so we're going to show you stuff to prevent these kind of injuries. But if you are having these kind of pain, it'd be great to, reach out to your physical therapist, see if this pain is related to anything to do with like your golf swing in general.
Awesome. So it looks like, you guys guessed correctly, back, right? So as Leanna was touching on, the back is it's a junction between our lower extremity and our upper extremity, and it's meant to be a stable structure. And ultimately, some restrictions in more segments of the body that are supposed to be more mobile result on putting more stress in the low back, often injures some structures around the low back, particularly a rotational sport like golf, super common. So what we hope to do next, we're going to bring up, we're going to go into some demonstrations. All right. And we're going to show you some things today to address some of these deficits that you may find, and also just work on prevention of these injuries to certain parts of the body. All right. So Leanna's going to start off and take us through a few things, and I'm going to demonstrate to start.
Yeah, let's get you guys up and moving. So feel free to join us. Right now you'll be joining Dan, and practice some of these along with us. If you have any questions about any of these, feel free to put it in the Q&A section. So first thing we want to talk about, we said how the address was a very important part of getting that stable foundation. So an important part of that address is making sure that low back is in a nice, stable, nice neutral position when you're getting going. So in order to find that nice neutral position, we're going to teach you something called pelvic tilts. So to show you the most basic version of this, I'm going to have Dan lay on his back here. Perfect. He's going to put his hands on his hip bones. They'll be kind of holding on to that pelvis right there, but you can feel it by just feeling the front. You can find those hip bones right there. And what he's going to do, he's going to practice tucking his tailbone under and getting his back as flat as he can against the ground. This is the position we kind of want to keep more in that golf swing. So he's going to keep that. And then what he's going to do is rock back and forth. So he's going to keep his back nice and flat against the table, and then he'll arch his back and get a lot of room against the table. So you can kind of feel the difference between when your back is nice and flat versus when it's super arched. Because sometimes we start in that arched position when we are starting our golf swing, and that just leads to not good things as we start to rotate on that. So Dan's going to go back and forth here. He'll hold that kind of pelvic tilted under. So also known as like when the tailbone is tucked under. He'll hold that for about 5 to 10 seconds at a time. Make sure he feels really good doing it in this easy laying on his back position. How's it feeling, Dan?
Feels good.
All right. And as he starts to feel like he's getting the hang of it, what we're going to do is have him stand up, and we're going to try it in what we call the 5-iron position. So basically, if you're about to hit with your 5-iron. So Dan will show you a little bit from the side view here. Perfect. So he's going to practice that same pelvic tilt. So if you need to, you can keep your hands on your hips there and see how he's kind of rocking back and forth. So sometimes people start in more of this S posture. So Dan, why don't you show the S posture for us? That's, arched back there. If people start in this position, your back's in this extended and it doesn't really like to rotate when it's back here. So what we want to do is get people out of this posture here. So he's going to do a nice pelvic tilt, tuck his tailbone under, and good. That's more of the position that we want to kind of start our golf swing off in. So these pelvic tilts are great to kind of get more of awareness of where your low back and your pelvis are, so that we can start ourselves off on a good foundation here. All right, great. So Dan's going to try it again in standing. He's got back and forth there. Next, what we want to do, and Dan kind of alluded to it when he was talking about, going from that back swing down, working towards the impact. But we're going to work on kind of dissociating our lower body from our upper body. It's really important in the golf swing. It's good with the power generation part of it. So what I'm going to have Dan do, he's going to grab that golf club. Yep, and he's going to cross it across his chest here. What we want to do is try to move his upper body without moving his lower body. So he's going to keep those hips nice and still and try to rotate through kind of his mid-back area. Just working on, getting to be able to move the different parts of your body without moving them all together. Good. See how he's keeping his legs nice and good. So if he were to say he wasn't able to dissociate very well, what he'll do is start rotating over his hips, and he'll show you that. Yeah, see how his hips are starting, his knees are starting to move a little bit. That means he's not really able to dissociate those two different parts. So let's go back to our normal there, Dan. Just show how you're rotating just the upper part of your body. Good. And then on the other side, we also want to show, being able to rotate just at the hips and try to keep that upper body stable. So what he's going to do, this time he's going to keep his shoulders and his trunk kind of all stable and try it. This one won't be quite as easy to see on the camera, but just going to rotate more kind of at the hips and that pelvis. Try to move those hips side to side without moving too much at the shoulders. The golf club is good to keep it up here because you can see it kind of exaggerates if your shoulders start to move a little bit. And this is a tough one, especially in standing. So if you feel like it's a little tough to dissociate these two different parts, what you can do is kind of start in a sitting position. That way it really locks out, your hips and your legs. Then you can kind of practice rotating side to side, and then practice just rotating at the legs. So the more advanced version would be the standing one that Dan is showing. Great. Dan, how you doing over there?
It's tough, but easier the more you do. Easier the more you do.
All right. The next thing we want to show you is how to open up that mid-back a little bit. How we said before, very common to have mid-back tightness. We're sitting on computers all day, getting that nice rounded back. Sometimes it gets super stiff and it doesn't allow us to rotate. And it's really important to be able to rotate at that mid-back, because if you don't, you're going to have to compensate at the shoulders. You're going to have to compensate at the low back, both of which are very commonly injured. So we're going to start with what we call open books. So Dan is going to take this foam roll here. He's going to lay on his side. Yep, he's going to put his top leg on top of the foam roll there. Good. What that's going to do is just going to lock out the low back and the hips. So because we're just focusing on rotating at that middle part of the back. And he's going to have his hands together. Then he's going to rotate over and try to go to the other side. Yep, and his eyes are going to follow that top hand. So you're just going to feel this rotation kind of in the middle of your back. And he's going to go back and forth. If you feel like you really feel a stretch at the end, you can hold it for a couple seconds. Ideally, we like to do this like 20 to 30 times on each side, just to make sure that we're evening it out. I like to tell my patients, it's a great thing to do first thing in the morning. If you don't have a foam roll, you can just use a pillow, put it right under that top leg and just open up a little bit. Get your day going with a little bit of this stretching. It's a good way to wake up. Dan, how's it feeling?
Really good.
All right. So this is more just kind of working on that mobility in the mid back there. We're going to make it a little bit more advanced. We're going to add a little bit of core strength to it. So Dan, can you show us a little side plank for us?
Okay.
So we're going to add a little bit of core stability, and then we're going to introduce that what we call thoracic, which is the mid back, just that mid back mobility. So easiest way to start this, Dan is going to stack his knees together and he raised up from his hips. You don't want to push too much from the shoulder. We don't want to compensate by just using that shoulder. We want to really work on using that core. So Dan pushed up from his hips. Once you assume this good side plank position, now what he's going to do is going to reach under as far as he can while keeping his hips high. Good. And then he's going to reach all the way up to the sky. Good. Let's go back and forth sometimes here. This is generally a good one to do, again, like 20 to 30 times on each side. Take a break every 10 or so as needed. Maybe you can also set a timer so you don't have to count so much. Maybe do like 30 seconds at a time. But again, we're adding in that, keeping that low back stable while moving that mid back. And then if Dan feels like he's getting really good at this, what he can do is go into a full side plank here.
Right.
Nice, there we go. And then he's gonna reach under. So there's different modifications you can use. If the full side plank feels a little too tough, he can, either stagger your feet like this, spread them out a little bit more, or you can put one knee down and one knee straight up. Do whatever feels challenging enough for you. Again, feeling a good burn there, Dan?
Oh yeah.
All right. Now, we touched a little bit on core stability, so now let's work on getting some power through that core. So we got a couple core exercises here. One is going to be good to kind of protect that low back. And the other thing it's going to do is help generate power. So like we said, a lot of the power from the swing starts at the hips and kind of works its way up to the hands. But what helps it go from the low back all the way up to the hands is that core. It's going to help transition that power from the lower body up. So what we want to do is get that core nice and strong so that we're able to transition that power and have a nice strong swing. So I'm going to show you the first one. We're going to use resistance bands, as you can see in the background. If you have a cable column or any kind of resistance, this should work for you. So we have Dan. Let's pick out your favorite color, Dan.
Go red.
All right. So Dan's going to show you chops. So we're going to start in a kneeling position. This is the easier version. We'll show you the tougher version after this. So we're going to really work on that twisting and turning with the core. The couple keys to this one is not just using your arms to twist over. What he wants to do is really turn at that trunk and activate those core muscles to twist. Dan's doing a great job right now. Dan, why don't you show us if someone was just kind of using their arms to bring it down? Yeah, see this is more of an arm exercise. He's going to feel a shoulder burn. He's not going to feel much in his core. So he wants to keep his arms in a relatively same position, and he's going to rotate and bring it over his top knee. Perfect. These are called chops. This is going to work on getting that good rotational strength there. This is a similar one we're going to do on both sides. So we'll do anywhere from 20 to 30 reps on both sides. And then as Dan feels like he's getting really good at this, he's going to come up into more of a split stance position. This will make it a little bit more tougher, a little bit more unstable. Similar kind of motion though. Just make sure he's really rotating at that core, using those ab muscles. Good. All right. Next one I want to show you is called Palloff press. Very similar. This one is just going to be working on activating that core. So Dan's going to again grab some bands. This one should be at a little bit lower because we're not doing so much of a twisting motion. So Dan's going to step out a little bit, step out a couple feet away from the band. Good. He's going to assume that nice, a little bit of a squat position, similar to how we set up for the address. Good. Yep. And he's going to be holding on to the resistance band. The key to this one is to not let yourself turn back towards wherever resistance is pulling you. You're going to use those ab muscles to keep yourself nice and straight, keep your shoulders forward. And what he's going to do, he's going to press out and back in. And we're going to repeat this on both sides, really working on not letting it pull you back. Dan, why don't you show them what I'm talking about? If say the resistance was a little too much and they're not activating their core, yeah, you're going to turn back towards the band, and that means you're not using those core muscles quite enough. So either that means the resistance is a little too heavy, or you just really need to focus on activating that core. Perfect. And then as this one starts to get easy, what you can do is start to play with some of the stability part of it. So if Dan felt he was an expert at this one, he could maybe go on one leg, or he could change the support surface he's on. He could maybe stand on like an uneven surface or a foam. So yeah, this is the single leg variation he's showing you now. He's got a good core stability under there. I see it. All right. So those are the first three we wanted to show you. Just really working on, starting off in a good address, really working on that mid back mobility, and then working through the stability of the core. So I'm going to bring Dan back, and he's going to show us a couple more of the arm and leg exercises.
That was a workout. All right. So next up, we're gonna work down the chain a little bit and also go more towards our upper extremity as well. So again, also very important in the golf swing. So to start off, we're gonna do more lower extremity. I'm gonna be talking about hip mobility. All right. So throughout the golf swing, both through the backswing and through the downswing, through the follow through, very important for our hips to be very mobile. It's a mobile joint that's able to move in multiple planes of motion. All right. So we have to have good rotation through those joints. And I want to show you a couple drills that we can do to help improve that and work on that. So the first one Leanna is going to be demonstrating is called a stork pose. All right. So she's going to grab her club. She's going to have it right in front of her as so. Then she's going to take one of her legs and she's going to bend her knee on up, rest it on the inside of her thigh right by her knee. And what she's going to do is she's going to twist side to side. All right. She's using her club for stability here, and she's just getting nice rotate. Yeah, it could be a little tough. That's why we have the club there. Super common. And then she'll do a little bit on both sides. You know, she'll go like maybe 10, 15 rotations, maybe 1 to 2 times on each leg. And as she, the more she does this drill, it may seem easy, it may feel easy having that club there for support. So she may try to take one hand away, challenge that single leg balance a little bit more. And then the most advanced version would be for her to completely take the club off the ground. And then boom, she's working on really, really challenging her balance as she's working on that hip mobility. So that's called the stork pose. It's a simple one that you could do to help work on loosening up the hips. All right. Now, in addition to working on loosening up the hips with that drill, I want to show you another drill. It's more of a stretch. All right. So she's going to use her club again, and she's going to take like a staggered stance. She's going to take a step backwards. And from here, she's going to keep the glute muscle of her back leg nice and activated as she leans forward into this stretch here. And this is a hip flexor stretch. All right. So our hip flexors are our muscle group that on golfers often become tight, and become tight on a lot of people from just sitting down, for work, for travel, sitting down in the golf cart, throughout our match. And the hip flexor muscle is what helps bend the hip upwards. All right. It's what allows us to flex our hip. All right. So this stretch helps counteract that by just giving it a nice stretch. All right. Typically you'll hold it for like 30 seconds. We'll do that 2 to 3 times on each side. Something you can do out on the course. All right. Just to loosen up that muscle around the hip as well. The hip flexor muscle on the front of the thigh. You should be feeling a nice stretch. How'd that feel?
I needed that.
Yeah. Now we're going to go a little bit more upper extremity. All right. So we're going to talk about the shoulder. All right. All right. Similar to the hips, the shoulder is a very, very mobile joint. It's able to move in many different planes of motion. All right. So what we need to do is warm up the muscles around that joint to be able to control that rotation. All right. And loosen it up as well. So we're going to work on some shoulder isometrics. All right. So for this one, I'm going to have her bring her arms up by her side. She's going to come on up. She's going to take one hand. She's going to bring it towards the side here. And she's going to try to push down as if she was trying to bend her arm this way. All right. Trying to rotate her whole arm and shoulder inward, but the hand is blocking it. All right. She'll hold that about 7 to 10 seconds and then relax. And then she's going to try to go the other way. All right. She'll come on up. She'll hold here 7 to 10 seconds. Right. And what you'll feel is muscles in and around your shoulder joint start to fire. All right. And these muscles help control the shoulder through all these very different planes of motion. All right. And we're getting blood flow to the area and just getting those guys firing. All right. She'll also we can bring the arms down by her side, and she can do isometrics in this way. By isometric meaning it's just getting the muscles to tense up. All right. She's going to try to, as she's standing there, she's going to try to push in as if she was trying to turn in this way. But again, her hand is blocking it. She'll hold there 7 to 10 seconds. Then she can also go the other way. All right. As if she was trying to turn outwards like this. 7 to 10 seconds. All right. And then we can do a little bit more of our bigger muscles around our deltoids, some bigger muscle groups around the shoulder. And she'll try to put her hand along the side of her elbow here as if she was trying to bring her arm out this way. She'll hold 7 to 10. And then she can do the same thing, trying to bring her arm in. She can hold here, try to push her arm towards her side. All right. These are just simple drills to help fire up these muscle groups, get blood flow to the area, and just, get the body primed, get the shoulders primed to perform. All right. Now, also what we need to touch on, we haven't touched on much yet, is our wrist. All right. In golf, it's a gripping sport. It demands a lot of our certain muscles in and around our wrists, particularly our wrist flexors. All right. Those are the muscle groups on the inside of our forearm here that help bend our hand downward. All right. As we're gripping the golf club, for repetitive periods of time throughout our rounds, throughout 18 holes, even 9 holes, that muscle group on the inside of our forearm becomes very dominant and very, just overworked. And we need to stretch those guys out, loosen them up a little bit, limber them up. So she's going to extend her hand on out in front of her, and she's going to go ahead and do a nice little gentle stretch to the inside of her forearm here. She'll hold it there about 30 seconds, 2 or 3 times, and she'll do that on both sides. Again, just to loosen up a dominant group for golf. All right. Now, Leanna and I threw a lot at you there. I know it's a lot. We want to give you something that you can take with you and implement right away on the golf course to really help you perform, prevent injury, and hopefully improve your overall golf game. All right. So we're going to go through a nice little golf warm up. All right. It's got a handful of exercises that you can kind of work your way through rapid fire before your round to help really set yourself up for a successful injury-free round of golf. All right. So Leanna, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go. So we're going to kind of work our way through all these different joints. All right. These mobile joints, these stable joints, work our way through the body, prime the body up for success. All right. So to start, we're going to start actually up by our neck and our shoulders. And what Leanna's going to do, she's going to bend her head down, bring her chin towards her opposite collarbone. She's going to do that in a repetitive fashion. And from here, we're getting nice mobility out of certain joints in our neck. We're also getting stretching of certain muscles up in and around the neck and shoulders. Again, it's also getting blood flow to the area, which is great. She'll go through this about like 10 times per side. And then we'll go into those shoulder isometrics that we just went through. All right. So she'll bring her arm up, 7 to 10 seconds going up, 7 to 10 seconds going down. All right. She'll bring her arm at her side. She'll try the same things that we just went over. All right. Couple of seconds, just waking up the shoulders. All right. Now after these shoulder isometrics, right, we're going to start to do a little bit more of a dynamic movement with the arms. All right. We're going to do some arm circles. All right. Awesome. Leanna's going to do some small circles with her arms going forward. Then she'll go backwards. She'll be about like 10 forwards, about 10 backwards, small circles. And she'll be big circles, about 10 forward and 10 backwards. All right. Really loosening up the shoulder joint, getting it ready to perform. All right. Following that, we'll go into the wrist flexor stretch. All right. Like we just went over. Boom. She might just do like maybe 1 30-second hold per side, maybe 2, right? Just limbering up that muscle group. And then following that, we're going to start to get back towards the spine, and we're going to start to loosen up the upper back. All right. So she's going to grab her golf club. She's going to drape it across her shoulder like I was showing you guys earlier. And from here, she's going to twist side to side. Perfect. She might do like 10 to 15 rotations like that. Then she'll try to keep her upper torso straight, and then she'll try to move her hips. Perfect.
Hey Dan, excuse me. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Someone in our audience wanted to know if they can do those wrist and forearm stretches cold, or do you need to warm up before?
Yeah, no, good question. It's not a bad idea to warm up the wrist a little bit. Really good point. But to warm it up, simply bend your wrist up and down a few times. What this is going to do is just going to get some blood flow to that tissue. All right. Following let's say 10 to 15 of these, then you can go into the stretch. Really good point. All right. Good point. So we were working our way down the body, back to the warm up here, working our way down. And we're going to get into pelvic tilts. All right. So she's going to assume that 5-iron position, and she's going to work on tucking that pelvis, getting out of that S posture, right? Getting those hips moving. All right. Again, just warming up the spine, making some brain muscle connections, priming certain muscle groups, certain joints to perform. All right. And then following that, she's going to take, this is a new one. She's going to take her club. She's going to bring it behind her back. And we're going to work on loosening up a ton of muscles in the back of our back and our legs. All right. We're going to do a movement known as a hip hinge. All right. So basically she's going to keep her back straight. She's using her golf club as a guide to do that. She's keeping her head, her upper back, and her tailbone against the golf club. She's going to bend forward through the hips. Perfect. About like 45 degrees. She probably feels like a bit of a stretch to the hamstrings. How's that one feeling?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Feeling that stretch.
Yeah. So she'll probably do this. We'll have her do it 10 times. All right. Just getting certain muscle groups loosened up. And then we're following this. She's going to put her club back on the ground. She's going to loosen up those hips. All right. So similar to how we did arm circles with the leg. All right. We're going to loosen up the hips in a certain way. She's going to start to swing her leg forward and backwards. Let's say like 10 to 15 times. Then she'll go, on each side. Perfect. And then we'll go side to side as well. Really good. All right. So the hip joint's very similar to shoulder joint. Getting those mobile joints loosened up. All right. And then we're going to end with a nice hip flexor stretch and a calf stretch. All right. So like we just showed you, she's going to put her golf club back. Boom. She's going to lean forward. From here, she's going to get a nice stretch from her hip flexor muscle group that we discussed. And she's also going to get a stretch through her calf muscle or her lower leg muscle. All right. And she'll do like a 30-second hold on each side. All right. So hopefully this warm up gives you just a few things that you can kind of run through rapid fire while you're on the course to really prime yourself for performance and prevent injury. All right. Don't have to go crazy with it. Honestly, just spend a couple of minutes going through that warm up prior to your round of golf. And it will address all those different parts that we were talking about in terms of mobility and stability, and allowing that pattern of the human body to be warmed up to perform. All right. So I'll welcome Amir back on screen, and we're gonna take your questions. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what you guys are talking about and what thoughts you guys have. All right.
Great stuff, guys. Appreciate that. Yes, we've had some questions here. We'll start kicking them off, and please, again, feel free to add your questions in the Q&A as they come about, and we'll be happy to address them. Here we go. I was waiting all day for this. Where are the golfer's elbow questions, right? Here they come. So one of the questions was, usually, how long do I need to work out before playing my round? Is there like a routine that you would do beforehand?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, you want to talk on that? Or?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear. What'd you say?
How long do I need to work out before playing my round?
Yeah, you want to do something that's definitely going to warm you up, but you don't want to overwork yourself, because a lot of these golfers' injuries are overuse injuries. So we don't want to do, a crazy long workout and then go play 18 holes. That's probably going to lead to some sort of overuse. So, something as simple as like a 20 to 45 minute workout, just prime some of these muscles, get them working a little bit. If you don't have that time, just run through that warm up, try to do it at least once or twice, before the 18 holes. So maybe, you waiting at the driving range, just try to do that quick warm up. But yeah, we definitely don't want to do like a whole, hour and a half workout before we start, playing a golf round for 3 or 4 hours.
Cool. Great.
And
here's another one. So this one has a couple of questions layered in. So what mechanics of the golf swing predisposes to golfer's elbow? And what swing change and or exercises can help?
Can you say that for the first part again?
Sure. What mechanics of the golf swing predisposes to golfer's elbow? Yeah,
so it could be a few things. All right. So if there's, for example, again, the shoulder is a very mobile joint. If there's some stiffness in the shoulder, it could lead to overuse further down the chain. So, and by down the chain, I like to think of the upper extremity as having different links of a chain, right? The shoulder's one loop of the chain, then the elbow all the way down to the wrist, right? If the shoulder is not performing optimally, that force, the human body is pretty good at finding a way to accomplish what needs to be done. So some of that force that normally would be dissipated or absorbed by the shoulder, maybe landing right on the elbow. So in terms of what biomechanics might be impacted, yeah, it could be a few things, but I'm thinking more probably shoulder. But again, that's why, it's important to get a nice thorough screen so that we can kind of work through different parts, different layers, and find out what exactly for you individually might be impacting to the dysfunction that you're presenting with. It might be a shoulder for some person that's impacting their elbow. It may be a wrist that's impacting their elbow. It's important to kind of do a nice thorough screen. And you can come on into us. We'll check it out. We can take a look at kind of for you, taking you through a movement screen to see what might be impacting for you individually.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Yeah, definitely. How Dan alluded to before, golfer's elbow is pretty typical with a lot of the gripping that has to be done. One of the other parts that could be doing it too is, when you are going through the golf swing, your wrists are supposed to stay relatively in the same position throughout. But, if you find yourself, the parts of your swing doing a lot more kind of cocking with your wrists kind of at impact, trying to get that golf club in the right position, sometimes that overuse of this motion, which can lead to some of the forearm dysfunctions, can happen there. So, if you notice that you're either doing too much wrist motion up at the top or too much kind of wrist flick down at the end to try to get that good spot for impact, that's also another swing mechanic that could lead to some elbow issues there.
Yeah, and based on what you guys are saying, to answer that second part is a bit challenging, right? With excuse me, what exercise can you do, right? I mean, you can stretch your forearm flexors, but not knowing exactly what the problem is, they may not fully address it.
Right, exactly. It's going to be unique to the golfer, unique to the individual. It's important to get a nice thorough screen and kind of see what for you personally might be the impacting causation factor for you. So
I really like this next one.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, it's got like a good sports vibe. What can we do to help build more club speed and build strength to make our shots fly farther?
Really good.
I like this question.
Yeah, so kind of what we alluded to before, a lot of the power of the golf swing comes from the lower body. So, doing as much as you can to strengthen those hip muscles, strengthen those like quick part of those muscles. So powerful movements, those squats, those deadlifts, the snatches, a lot of those, power generating movements from the hips, and then going on with that strong, powerful core to help transition that up there. So, big part of it's going to be coming from the lower body for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I've read studies that demonstrate that upwards of 40% of power generation is coming from the lower extremity for golfers. And, a lot of the pro golfers out there, a common term you hear is like kind of leading with the hips. So, the hips are really like the prime driver of the golf swing, particularly as you get into the downswing. The body moves in a very sequential pattern. The hips tend to lead through that downswing. Then that energy transfer goes through the core, as Leanna hinted on, goes up through the upper back, up through the arms, and ultimately down through the club. All right. So I would say, lower extremity, very, very important. Glute strength, hamstring strength, super important for a nice, powerful golf swing. And, as they say in the golf world, to hit bombs, you're gonna need to have a really good, strong lower extremity. So
I thought you guys would like that one too. All right. So, this one's a little specific to the person, but I think it'll drum up some good conversation for the entire audience. So the person's saying that they have ulnar-sided wrist pain or pinky-sided wrist pain that they use a wrist widget for. Okay. And they want to know what part of their swing is likely to be causing this issue. So maybe just speaking to wrist pain and what part of the swing might be causing that.
Sure. You want to take this one, Dan?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough to answer for 100% certainty. There's many factors that could be impacting what is being experienced in terms of that like sense of pain or dysfunction. It's important to get a nice thorough screen to see what might be impacting that. In terms of in terms of biomechanics, it could be a few things. it's important to kind of, take that individual through a thorough screen to see where some dysfunction or some disruption of that pattern of stable and mobile segments could be impacted, right? So the wrist is a very mobile joint. It could be that there's some type of disruption maybe locally at the wrist or elsewhere. It's important just to I would want to take that person to a screen and kind of see, what might be impacted. I don't know, Leanna, you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's not something that we'll be able to answer without, getting the person in front of us for sure. It could be multiple parts of the swing. Obviously the wrist is pretty involved throughout the whole golf swing. Couple places I would likely see something going on with the wrist would kind of be coming up with the backswing. If there's any, excessive wrist bending that shouldn't be there, and, kind of at impact, if your whole upper extremity is not in a good place at impact, you're going to be, constantly bringing force through a part of that arm that's not quite ready for it yet. So, definitely taking a look at where you are at impact, and we could see if there's any, specific vulnerabilities at that place, because you are driving a lot of force through that golf club. And if the arm isn't in a good spot for that, could be leading to some injury there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, really good point.
We have a question here related to cramping after a round, and it looks like thigh and calf specifically. Any suggestions or tips to prevent that or address it?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to cramps, obviously there's a few things that could be impacting it. Obviously, hydration is what we all hear of. But it also could be that, hey, the muscle groups weren't ready for the demands thrown at them, possibly, right? So that's why it's important to prime your muscle groups through a nice warm up, so that they're able to handle the forces that are about to be thrown at them throughout the round of golf. I would recommend definitely participating in perhaps the warm up we suggested today, to help prime the muscle groups, and also just be aware of hydration when you're out on the course. Especially if you're playing in the summertime, it's hot out there. Leanna, anything to add?
Yeah, visiting the Carp Girl too many times. I might have missed the beginning part of that. Was that, during the swing they had cramping, or just throughout their?
No, it was post, like a round.
Okay. I mean, it could also be too, if the only time you get out the course is the only really time you're up and walking, it may just be, your tolerance to walking. If you're not someone who's able to walk a couple miles without, really fatiguing yourself, it might be, time to build up your walking tolerance a little bit, go for a couple more walks around the neighborhood. If that's something that, the only time you're getting out and moving is on the golf course, and maybe, just the sheer act of walking the 18 holes.
Cool. I think we have time for one last one. Someone's saying here, these exercises seem to be directed towards a full swing. How do these exercises carry over to my short game and putting?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
You want to touch on it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we definitely went over more of the full swing, but when you think about, the other swings, whether it's the putting or chipping, it's just going to be a more condensed version of this swing. But the key foundations of starting at a really good approach, getting everything lined up as you should is going to be important for both putting and chipping and getting out of the rough, all that stuff. Keeping a nice stable core and being able to dissociate, the lower body from the upper body. If you're chipping, you're primarily moving kind of the upper half, and you want to have a nice stable lower body. So, although they're not, perfectly, the same kind of swings, it is more of a condensed version. And what we kind of touched on here is still going to be, aspects of those other swings.
Yeah, totally. And even taking it outside of the short game, there's tons of different swing styles, and different, you're not always going to be taking a full swing, and we understand that. But a lot of the exercises we were discussing today are just simply addressing the demands that are needed throughout the entirety of the game of golf, by the body to perform, right? So the exercises are going to help prime these joints, and just get them ready to perform, whether you're taking a driver off the tee box, or you're, in the bunker chipping, or on the green putting. All right. So they may seem more targeted towards the full swing, but there will be carryover for sure.
Dan, Leanna, thank you so much. That was all very helpful. And you've got a lot of really nice accolades in the chat feature. If you want to take a look, people were really seem to be pleased with what you were presenting. So look, everybody, we hope today's talk was valuable and that you learned more about golf injury prevention and some treatment methods to improve your physical performance. If we didn't get to your questions, we'll do our best to reach out to you directly afterwards. And we'll also be sending a handout after this webinar with a recap of the important facts as well as the exercises for you to have as a reference. As a reminder, your presenters for today were Dan Romeo and Leanna Gearhart, and they're both physical therapists at our 30 Broad Street office. You can feel free to jot down their contact information so you can reach out to them directly with any questions and/or to schedule an assessment or an appointment for them for any of your golf or physical therapy needs. Our Q&A moderator was Jeff Smith, the physical therapist at our 30 Broad Street office. And my name again is Amir Rand, one of the regional directors here at Spear. So feel free to reach out to us as well with any questions, and we'd also be happy to facilitate getting you set up with one of our great therapists. At Spear, we treat an array of conditions from head to toe, and as a reminder, we're open for in-person visits as well as telehealth sessions. Should you feel that you could benefit from some individualized guidance and treatment, please don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us individually, and we will personally coordinate you being set up with one of our team members for an evaluation. Lastly, at Spear, we will be continuing to host webinars through 2021, covering a variety of topics, and we look forward to seeing you there. So please follow us on social media and/or check your inboxes to learn more about upcoming topics as they are scheduled. Thank you very much for spending time with us. We hope you enjoyed our webinar, and we wish you all the very best. Be well, and so long.
Take care, guys.